have gone through something, or currently going through something, or feel like you will go through something that may have shaken your life to the point where you didn't feel like you wanted to be here? How many of you have ever felt alone in your pain? And a lot of times, with the majority of us who have felt alone in our pain, we come to a place where we think we're supposed to be saved. It's the house of God. But even in times, how many times have you come here? Raise your hand if you felt like in those times where you felt alone, you feel ostracized, you came here and felt the same way. Anyone? Well, you showed up at church looking for someone. You can keep playing. You showed up at church looking for somebody to care and to reach out. And you felt like that you had to put on a mask in order to front like everything was good. Anybody ever had to do that front? We had to smile anyway and keep pressing, no matter how much pain that you were in. You had to put on a mask of perpetrating to say, yeah, I know I'm empty on the inside, but I got a front to make it look like I got it all together. Tonight, my goal is to give you some tools, some things that God gave me to help me when I felt like I was by myself, at my wit's end, and God calls me to go behind the mask. Well, I had to take off the mask in the front of what I was holding in, face my true feelings, so that I could be healed. Some of you are carrying some scars that are deeper than anybody could ever imagine, and you're still stuck behind the mask. Tonight, my goal is to help you get free. Anybody ready to be free? So even if you haven't been through anything too tough, or you're not going through anything currently, these will help you for the things that you will go through. Because if you live long enough, you will encounter some trials and some tribulations. It's time to go behind the mask, because there's some of us who have gotten to the point where it felt like I don't even want to live anymore. What's the point? When I keep trusting people and they keep abusing me, what's the point? To keep smiling through my pain and it looks like nobody cares, what's the point? Somebody does care. It's a whole lot of people that care. But it's the devil's job to try to cloud your mind, your psyche, your thoughts. To say nobody cares about you. Nobody cares what you're going through. Why don't you just end it all? It's time to go behind the mask. Somebody say behind the mask. Scripture for tonight, Luke 12:2 in the Message Bible says this: you can't keep your true self hidden forever. Sooner or later, the mask will slip and your true face will be known. A lot of times we get to the point where we feel like we can hide everything that we go through. Scripture says that your true self can't be hidden forever. There'll be eventually one moment where you get tired. We feel like you just can't take it. And that smile that you usually have on turns into a frown, and you allow your true self to be shown. People ask you what's wrong, and we close off, say, no, I'm good. I'm fine. I'll be all right. But there are some things that you need to address in order to be healed from. And you cannot address what you avoid. You cannot move past where you are trying to avoid your pain, trying to internalize, trying to look over and smile over everything that you're going through. You cannot move past what you avoid. You have to address it. This part is usually uncomfortable because you have to face some of those fears, some of those hurts, some of those pains. And it's uncomfortable. But in order to be healed, you have to address it. Somebody said, I have to address it. Next thing you have to understand is that you delay your progress when you avoid the process. You delay moving into your destiny and into your purpose when you avoid the process of being healed. When you shy away from pain because it hurts too much. I know, I've been there. Well, I said, I just can't take it. I can't deal with that right now. I got too much to do. But you delay your progress because you can never enter into what God has for you, still holding on to this baggage. You have to face it. You got to go through the process to get what I like to call total healing, because a lot of times we get partial healing. And we say, okay, well, I feel better for the moment, so I'm good. Now I could just jump back into doing what I was doing. But we never get healed totally. And if we don't get healed totally, then we'll have a relapse. And then one day, something will happen to trigger that thought in your mind of what happened to you in the past. And then all those emotions will come flooding back, because we have avoided the process. It's time to face your process so that you can be healed, going beyond the mask. The mask not only protects, because a lot of times we put on a mask to protect ourselves, where we feel like I have to protect myself because everybody seems like they're doing their own thing. So I can't trust people. Anybody got a problem with trust? We just don't trust easy. I don't open up. I don't let people in to know what I'm going through. It may protect you as a defense mechanism, but it also prevents. Because see, whatever you put up to keep out things, you prevent things from getting in. So you got to understand that the mask prevents truth and freedom. Somebody say truth and freedom. Scripture says you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. But if you prevent yourself from the truth, you never get freedom. So we have this mask on, and we continue to press, and we continue to do, and we continue to dance, and we continue to sing, and we're hurting. And then we come into the house of God, and we say, God, I just need to feel something. I need some help. I'm losing it. And you feel like you leave out the same way, because we have not yet taken off the mask, because we're trying to protect ourselves. What are you using to protect yourself? What is your defense mechanism? Do you look like you got it all together when inside you're really self-destructing? And we internalize these issues, and eventually we'll implode. We keep stuffing and sweeping under the rug until we get to the point where we can't avoid it anymore. And then people snap. And then people lose it. There's so many people who are holding things inside. We got people shooting people in churches because they haven't learned how to deal with the things that's going on behind the mask. We got people shooting people in schools because they've been talked about so much, and they don't know how to get those feelings out. Because they're hurting, because they get abused all the time at home, or the situation just keeps turning over, or they dealing with a sickness and saying, God, why am I going through this? Anybody ever asked that question, why? And we put on a mask to protect us, but it prevents us from the truth. Because see, when you lock yourself in, you block yourself out from the truth of God said he will never leave you nor forsake you, regardless as to how alone you feel. He said, I will never leave you. But we put on a mask and we prevent ourselves from hearing that. We put on a mask and we prevent ourselves from hearing that God loves you, that he's there for you, and that if you cry out to him, he will answer. We put on that mask and we shut down. It prevents us from truth and freedom. You put on a mask when you do three things. The first thing is this: when you internalize. Somebody say internalize. You put on a mask and when you internalize, and that's the act of preventing the expression of feelings, where you just bottle everything up, where you hold everything on the inside. You say, I got it, I'm cool. And you get hurt, and you don't tell anybody. You get molested, and you don't tell anybody. You get touched inappropriately, or you feel like you're getting picked on, or you're getting bullied. You don't tell anybody. You internalize it, and you hold it in. You say, I'm Superman, I'm Superwoman, I can deal with it. You're putting on a mask when you internalize. Because the true essence of how you're feeling is that you want somebody to help you because you're hurting. You really want this pain to go away. You really don't want to deal with it. But we internalize and say, I got it. I used to do that all the time. I say, I got it. I'm cool. Because I always had to do something. Somebody always needed me to do something for them. So I said, I'm cool. I got it. Secretly, I was hurting. I was angry. I was angry from things that happened in my childhood that I never addressed. Internalizing. The second thing, when you demoralize, somebody say demoralize. That's the cause to lose confidence or hope. When you get to that place where you just lose confidence in people. Say, I can't trust nobody. I'll never get out of this. I just give up hope that God has a purpose for my life. I give up hope that there's a destiny for me. Maybe that's for somebody else. When you demoralize, you put on a mask. Because there's a purpose that's locked on the inside of each and every one of you. But it's the devil's job to play with your mind to say it's not. To tell you that you will never accomplish what you was called and sent here to accomplish. But no demon in hell, no person on the earth can stop you from your purpose. There is nothing and no one that could prevent you from being what God has called you to be. God is not a man that he should lie, nor the son of man that he should repent. So if he said it, it has to come to pass. If he spoke something over you, it has to come to pass, because if it doesn't, that would make God a liar. And God will not risk his reputation for you. God has a perfect track record. Whenever he's spoken, it's always come to pass. And he's spoken something over your life. He said, there's destiny in you. Before you were formed in your mother's womb, I knew you. And I called you. Before you were wrapped in flesh and you were a spirit, God said, I called you. And I ordained you for a specific purpose. But when we lose hope in what God has called us and what he's told us, the things that you've heard in prophecies, or you've heard your grandmama say, baby, there's something on the inside of you. God's got a plan for your life. Anybody ever heard that? But it looks like the only plan that's succeeding in your life is the plan of the enemy. Because all you feel is pain, all you feel is aggravation, all you see is poverty, all you feel is guilt and shame over what you've done, and you say, how can I get free from this? When you demoralize and say, I'll never get out of this, you put on a mask. There's something that God has for you, but you got to believe. Because see, what happens is that in those moments where you demoralize and say, forget it, it'll never happen, then you operate in doubt. In James, it says that a man who doubts is like a wave of the sea, tossed to and fro. He's unstable in all of his ways. It goes on to say, let not that man think he shall receive anything from the Lord. So the devil tries to get you to doubt, to say, it'll never happen for me, because instantly you disqualify yourself. And you can be as close as you've ever been. You could be close to achieving the destiny and purpose of your life, because regardless of or despite popular belief, you don't have to be 30 to walk in your purpose. You don't have to be 25. God called Josiah and made him a king. He was 8. And God, he's the same God yesterday, today, and forever. Ain't nothing changed about him. So if he did it back then, guess what? He can do it now. There's greatness that's locked on the inside of you. And God is ready to unleash it right now. But we get to the point where we demoralize and we say, it'll never happen. It's been taking too long. I'm too young. Or I grew up in this household. Or this happened to me. I'm damaged goods. God won't use somebody like me. I ain't got it all together. I'm still making mistakes. I can't even shake these little things that I'm dealing with. How he gonna use me? God don't call perfect people, because there is no one perfect. He calls those with a willing heart. So when you demoralize, you put on a mask. Last thing is when you trivialize, or when people trivialize, which means to make something seem less important or significant. You ever been through something and it has been a huge issue in your life and somebody make it seem like it's not important? Well, you've been hurting and you've got an issue and they downplay your situation. Where you can have tears in your eyes and you can be crying out for help and they trivialize your situation. You ever been there? When you say, Mom, this is what's happening at school, and they say, yeah, okay, you just need to do X, Y, and Z, or maybe if you didn't do that. It's the worst thing somebody can do in your pain is put the blame back on you. So you're not responsible for what happens to you. You are responsible for how you respond. So whatever happened to you in your past or what's happened to you currently, it's not your fault. Look at somebody and tell them it's not your fault. Look at somebody else and tell them it's not your fault. But you are responsible for how you respond. Because see, when we begin to trivialize things and make them minimal, we never address the root. And then all of a sudden we have this big blow up off of something that seems so small because it was trivialized and it was downplayed and your pain is not that important, or yeah, you say you're going through that, but you ain't got no issues. You can't be tired. You don't do nothing. All you do is go to school. Why you tired? You ain't got no job. School is work. And see, what's so crazy is because nowadays school is 10 times more harder because you don't just go to school and get an education and have fun. You got to go and deal with peer pressure. That's beyond belief. You got to go and deal with so many haters. You got to go and deal with people talking about you, people picking on you. You got to go and deal with people trying to mess with you, trying to force you into things that you ain't ready for. School is work. And you come home, and a lot of times you're drained and you're tired because you're emotionally tapped out. Because you're tired of fighting. Anybody that's ever been in a fight for over 2 minutes, when you get done, you are dog tired. You ever been in a long fight? Oh my God, by the time y'all get finished, your arms feel like putty. You can start off, you can be swinging all hard. Then what happens? Hey, let's just call it a draw. You ever been in one of them kind of fights? Woo! You think you in shape. You swing for about 3 times, you step back, hold up, time out. Time out. Wait, let me catch my breath. Wait, no, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Can I get some water? Somebody give me some water. It takes a lot of work to fight. And when you're emotionally fighting, trying to survive, fighting with people who say they love you, you're trying to survive. You're fighting with the people who are your enemies, who are designed and put in a place to try to deter you from your destiny. And you're trying to survive. And you can fight for so long that you get tired. And when you get tired and when people try to minimize what you're going through, it causes you to put on a mask because you say, you don't understand. You don't get it. And when you feel like people don't understand what we do, we shut down, put on a mask, smile, and act as everything is okay. Those are the 3 things that happens to cause you to put on a mask. Now I'm going to tell you how to take off the mask. Anybody ready to take off the mask? To really walk into freedom and to destiny and purpose. First thing you have to do is you have to recognize. Somebody say recognize. You better recognize. You have to accept what has happened in order to move on from it. This is hard. It's hard to accept what has happened to you when it hurts so much. It's hard to accept that maybe the people who were there, who were your friends, who were smiling in your face when you were doing something for them, maybe they really didn't have your best interest at heart. It's hard to recognize and accept the fact that people that you poured into. Because see, thank you. There were some people in your life, friends, I've been here, who people who say they were my friends, who say they're in love with you, but are only in love for what you do for them. There's some people who are only in love for what you can do for them in their lives. And as soon as your service stops, their friendship stops. See, they're all for you as long as you're driving them around. They're all for you as long as you're paying their way. They down with you as long as you got their back. But as soon as that shuts down. See, you got to recognize and understand and accept it. That that's a part of life. Jesus had somebody in his camp who walked with him, who saw him do miracles, who saw him heal the sick, who saw him raise the dead. He was with somebody whose feet he washed and who he serviced and who he made sure was okay. And when it was all over, said and done, that same person who was close said, I'll betray him. Just throw me a little change. Give me a few dollars, and I'll point them out. Some people that's been close to you, that you thought was riding with you. And as soon as peer pressure hit, they said, okay, yeah, I'll talk about them too. I've walked with her. I've walked with him. I know inside stuff. I'll point them out. Hit them where it hurts. Matter of fact, I'll walk right up on them. Kiss him on the cheek. To show him that everything he did for me meant nothing. You got to recognize, and you got to be willing to accept it. It's not easy. It ain't easy. It's hard. But these are the steps you got to go through if you want to be healed. First thing you got to do is you got to recognize. Second thing you got to do is respond. Somebody say respond. Your response will either paralyze or propel you. How you respond to pain will determine where you end up. Because see, a lot of times our reaction causes us to get in more trouble, or our reaction brings them down to their level. For instance, when Judas walked up on Jesus and kissed him on the cheek, Peter said, you must be crazy. After everything he did for you, you're going to come up here and betray him with a kiss? They came to get Jesus. Peter pulled out that blade, cut a man's ear off. Yeah. Think you're just going to take my Jesus? LOL, that's funny to me. That is funny. I mean, just cut it off. Wrong response. What did Jesus do? Pick the man's ear up, say, Peter, you play too much, man. Put it back on his head, and there you go. Just don't worry about it. But see, Jesus' response was necessary so that he could go through the process so that he could fulfill his purpose. His response could have been to call down legions of angels. See, this is what's so great about Jesus, because Jesus has all power. He could command the entire host of angels that reside in heaven to come down in an instant, kill everybody on the earth. Can you imagine if you had that power? So many folk would be dead by now. The Lord knew he couldn't trust you with that. He knew he couldn't trust you with that. Not that power. Because y'all just be walking around. Somebody, what you say? Ho. What? You talking about me? Who's you talking about? You talking about me? Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me holler at y'all for a second. Yeah, I got some work for you. See, Jesus, the Lord couldn't trust you with that. But Jesus had all power. Could have caused them to drop dead in an instant. How can you have that power and still respond by allowing people to do something to you that you can prevent? Because it's necessary to go through some things to accomplish a purpose. See, trials come to make you strong. But if you never go through a trial, you gain no strength. And see, it's a whole bunch of weak Christians walking around. That's why we keep falling in temptation. Because we ain't got no strength. Because every time stuff gets tight or gets hard, we say, well, I need a way out. I can't do this. Lord, listen, it's too much for me. But if you ever get through it, there's something on the other side of that pain, and it's called purpose. And a lot of times it gets worse before it gets better. Jesus was betrayed. Cool, could have left it at that. Nah. Then they took him. They beat him. They stripped him. They whipped him. They spit on him. Laughed at him. Whipped him so bad his intestines were hanging, and still made him carry his own cross. Oh, it got bad. But after all that was over, he rose with all power in his hand. There are some things that's been trying to keep you down in your grave. But if you allow God to take you through the process, you're going to come up with some power. So the second thing that you have to do is respond. The last thing that you have to do is release. Somebody say release. You have to be willing to let go of the past to function in the future. You have to be willing to let go. Forgiveness, it's not easy, but it's necessary. Because what happens is the longer you hold on to stuff, the more paralyzed you become. And you can't function. You know some people that you still mad at. When you see them now, what you do? Ooh, them emotions get to rolling. And you say, okay, you got it all together, and you ain't forgiven, and you ain't let go. And you just try to sweep it under the rug, and then you get in and they walk in. And it'll shut your whole mood down. You can be, yeah. Why y'all ain't tell me he was coming? Y'all knew he was coming? Then you try to play it off. What's that? Because you ain't let go. You got to release that thing. Forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for you. Because when you forgive, you take that weight off. And you say, now I can function. And see, a lot of times, forgiveness will mess up your enemy more than what you can do to them. Because when people have done you wrong and they come in your face and you still smile, hey, how you doing? Good to see you, man. How your mama doing? Yeah, I heard your dog died. I'm sorry. They leave all confused. And they be like, yeah, oh, he might kill me or something. Something don't seem right. Because he's supposed to still be mad at me. Release. You got to forgive. You have to. Or else you will not function in the future. For instance, the children of Israel, they were held captive in Egypt. Slaves. Had no power to do what they wanted to do. Moses came in, he was used by God, and they set the children of Israel free. Let them go. Because they were not able to release what had happened. And to let go of certain pains and let go of certain mentalities, they got in the wilderness and start complaining. Say, I should have just stayed where I was. I should have just stayed in that relationship if I was going to be out here like this. I should have stayed doing what I was doing. I should have stayed smoking. I should have stayed drinking if I was going to feel like this. And they began to wander. And there's some situations that are causing some of you to wander. And you're walking around aimlessly with no direction. Wandering. Because we haven't let go. Because we haven't got to the place where we're able to release what has happened to us. And we're wandering. And there was a whole generation that never made it into the promised land because they were not able to release. We put on the front to make it look like we good. especially men, we got to be strong, and I gotta be a man about it. I grew up in an environment where men don't cry. If you cry, you a punk. That's how I grew up. My family see me crying, I needed to be ready to fight. So I grew up thinking I had to be hard. That everything I had to encounter, I was good. And I never got a chance to release. And what happens is that if you don't release it, it will make you release. It will cause you to do some things that you normally wouldn't do. Cause me to lash out and fight, go to clubs and do all this crazy stuff because I didn't get a chance to release. Because I didn't really think that I could. It's time to recognize and accept what's happened. To respond and say, you know what? That happened to me, but I refuse to allow this to cause me to die here. I refuse to live my life in all this hell and then die without receiving my purpose. No. This pain has to be worth something. Your pain is worth something. You got to be willing to go through the process so that you can get what the purpose that is attached to your pain. And after you respond, you got to let go. It happened. It hurt. But it's over. It's time to move on so that you can function. Bow your heads. Close your eyes. Some of you have been crying. Some of you felt like nobody has seen your pain. Nobody can understand. Some of you felt so alone. Even when you get around your friends, you don't feel happy like you used to. You don't feel like you once did. And you get to that point where you're tired. You say, what's the point? Some of you have been kicked when you were down. Some of you have been saying, God, why me? The answer to that question is because there's something on the inside of you. God saw something in you. But he had to allow you to go through some stuff to pull it out of you. Every pain has a purpose. Every test has a testimony. But you got to be willing to go through it. I don't know what your issue may be. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. It's time to tell God. Because a lot of us have been in a place where we've been so trapped that we don't even want to talk to God. You don't pray anymore. You don't spend time in God's presence. You don't even feel like coming to church. For what? Why do I got to come to church and act like everything cool when it's not? Why should I come to church when some of the people that's doing some stuff to me aren't in the church? There's some things that you've been asking about. Some things that you don't understand. But God still is in the healing business. And he can put your broken pieces back together. He can take your empty spots, all your voids, and fill him if you give him the opportunity. Am I telling you that things are going to change overnight? No. But I'm telling you that if you stick with God, you'll be far more better when you come out of this than when you went in.